The price of happiness. I remember the time when I believed money was everything. I thought if I worked hard and became rich, I would be happy. I wanted a big house, a nice car, and a life without worries. My wife and I saved every dollar. We dreamed of a future where we had everything we wanted. We planned, we worked, and we never stopped. After many years, our dreams came true. We bought a huge house with many rooms. We traveled to beautiful places. We ate at the best restaurants. Our children had new toys, new clothes, and anything they asked for. Life looked perfect. I felt proud. I had worked hard, and now I could give my family the best life. I thought this was happiness. But one day, everything changed. My younger son became sick. At first, we did not worry. We thought he just needed rest. But he did not get better. He was always tired. He did not want to play. My wife took him to the doctor. I was sure it was nothing serious. But when she came home, her face was white. She looked at me with fear in her eyes. I had never seen her like that before. The doctor had given her bad news. Our son had cancer. My heart stopped. I could not believe it. We had money, but money could not stop this. We paid for the best doctors, the best medicine, the best treatment. But he was still sick. I felt powerless. I wanted to fix everything, but I could not. Every night, I sat beside his bed. I held his hand. I watched him sleep. He was so small, but he was so strong. Even when he was in pain, he smiled. He never asked for new toys or trips. He only wanted us to stay with him. That was all he needed. And that was when I started to understand. Happiness was not in money. It was not in big houses or expensive things. Happiness was in love. It was in family. It was in small moments. I had spent so many years chasing money, thinking it would make me happy. But now I saw the truth. The days in the hospital felt long. I sat beside my son's bed, watching him sleep. His small hands looked so weak. His face was pale. The room was quiet except for the sound of the machines. I wanted to stay strong, but inside I felt lost. I had always believed that money could solve problems. But now, no amount of money could change this. Doctors came and went. They spoke in soft voices. They explained treatments and medicines. We nodded and agreed to everything. We paid for the best care. But no doctor could promise that he would get better. That thought scared me more than anything. My wife tried to stay strong, but I could see the fear in her eyes. She held our son's hand every day, whispering stories to him, telling him how much we loved him. At home, everything felt empty. The big house that once made me proud now felt cold. The expensive furniture, the large rooms, the beautiful garden, none of it mattered anymore. Our older child tried to be happy, but I knew he missed his brother. The house was quiet without laughter. I started thinking about the past. Before we had money, life was simple. We lived in a small house, but we were always together. We had dinner at the same table. We laughed at silly jokes. We played in the park on weekends. Back then, I wished for more money. I thought a bigger house and nicer things would make us happier. But now, I just wanted those simple days back. One night, I sat by my son's bed, holding his hand. He opened his eyes and looked at me. He was weak, but he smiled. "Daddy, will you stay with me?" he asked in a soft voice. I felt my chest tighten. I had spent so many years working, chasing success, thinking that was the way to make my family happy. But in that moment, I realized my son didn't care about money. He didn't want toys or trips. He just wanted me. That night, I made a decision. I would not waste any more time chasing things that didn't matter. My family needed me, not my money. I held my son's hand tighter and whispered, "I will always stay with you." The hospital became our second home. The days were long, and the nights were even longer. I sat beside my son, listening to the quiet beeping of the machines. The smell of medicine filled the air. Nurses walked in and out, checking his temperature, giving him medicine, adjusting the machines. My wife and I watched everything, hoping for good news. But the doctors never made promises. We only had hope. And some days, even hope felt weak. I started noticing things I had never paid attention to before. The way my wife gently stroked our son's hair when he slept. The way his small fingers curled around hers as if he never wanted to let go. The way he smiled even when he was in pain. He never complained. He never asked why this was happening to him. He was stronger than I ever imagined. And I, a man who had built a successful life, felt weaker than ever. Our older son struggled too. He tried to be brave, but I could see the sadness in his eyes. He missed his brother. He missed his mother and me. We were always at the hospital, and he was often alone at home. I had spent years trying to give my children everything, but now I saw that I had not given them the one thing they needed most time. I'd been too busy chasing success, believing that money would make us happy. But money could not bring back the days we had lost. One evening, I walked outside the hospital to get some air. The sky was dark and the streets were quiet. I looked at the city lights in the distance. Tall buildings, expensive cars, people walking fast, all chasing something. I had been just like them, always running, always wanting more. But what had I really gained? A big house that felt empty, a successful business that no longer mattered. What was the point of all that if I could not even make my son healthy? I went back to his room and sat beside him again. His breathing was slow, his body weak, but he still smiled when he saw me. I reached for his hand and held it. For the first time in years, I did not think about work, money, or success. I only thought about him, about my family, about the moments I had missed. And I promised myself that if life gave us another chance, I would never make the same mistake again. The days turned into weeks, and the hospital became our world. My son's hair started falling out because of the medicine. His small body became even weaker. He could not run, he could not play, but he still smiled. He smiled when his mother read him stories. He smiled when his brother visited. He smiled even when he was in pain. I did not understand how he could be so strong when I felt so weak. One day, as I sat beside him, he looked at me with tired eyes. "Daddy, when we go home, can we play together?" he asked. His voice was soft, almost a whisper. I felt a lump in my throat. I had spent so many years working, telling myself that I was doing it for my family. But now, my son had to ask me to play with him. I had been too busy chasing money to see what really mattered. At that moment, I made a promise. If we got through this, I would change. I would not spend my days in the office while my children grew up without me. I would not miss dinner because of late meetings. I would not let my business take me away from the people I loved. Money had given us comfort, but it had not given us happiness. Happiness was in the little things, like playing with my son, having dinner together, laughing about silly things. As the weeks passed, we continued to fight. My son fought the sickness with all his strength. My wife fought her fear, staying strong for him. And I fought my regrets, realizing how much time I had wasted. The doctors gave us hope, but they also warned us to be patient. Healing would take time. There were no guarantees. But for the first time in my life, I understood that real wealth was not in money. It was in moments, in love, in being together. One evening, my son fell asleep holding my hand. I watched his small chest rise and fall with each breath. I thought about all the nights I had spent working late instead of being home, all the times I had bought gifts instead of giving my time. I could not change the past, but I could change the future. No matter what happened, I would never let money take me away from my family again. The seasons changed while we stayed in the hospital. Outside, life went on. People rushed to work. Cars filled the streets. Children played in the parks. But for us, time moved slowly. Each day felt like a battle filled with tests, medicines, and waiting. We waited for good news, for signs of hope, for a reason to believe that things would get better. Some days were harder than others, but my son never stopped smiling. The doctors told us his body was responding to the treatment, but we had to be patient. His hair was gone, his body was weak, but his spirit was strong. My wife and I took turns staying with him, but I never wanted to leave. I had missed too much already. I had spent years building a life that I thought was perfect, but I had ignored the most important part, my family. Now, I wanted nothing more than to be with them. One evening, my older son visited. He sat beside his brother, holding his hand. "I miss you at home," he said softly. His eyes were filled with sadness. My younger son squeezed his hand and whispered, "I miss home too." I watched them, my heart heavy with guilt. I had worked so hard to give them a good life, but I had not given them enough of myself. Now, I saw what they really needed. Not a big house, not expensive gifts. They just needed each other. They needed their family to be whole. One night, I sat alone in the hospital room while my wife took a short break. The lights were dim and my son was asleep. I thought about the past, about the years I had spent chasing wealth. I remembered the late nights at the office, the missed birthdays, the times I had promised. Maybe next time, but time does not wait. It moves forward, and if we are not careful, we lose the moments that matter most. I looked at my son, his small fingers curled around his blanket. He was fighting for his life, and yet he was teaching me how to live. He was teaching me what happiness really meant. It was not in the things I had spent years working for. It was in love, in time, in being present. From that night on, I changed. I stopped thinking about work. I stopped checking my phone every minute. I stopped worrying about business meetings and bank accounts. My only focus was my family. I knew now that money was not the answer. Happiness was not something I could buy. It was something I had to give. The doctors gave us more hope. My son was getting stronger. Slowly, he started sitting up, then walking short distances. It was not easy, but he never gave up. He held my hand, and we took small steps together. Every step felt like a victory. Every smile felt like a gift. I had spent years chasing happiness in the wrong places. Now I found it in the simplest moments, walking beside my son, holding his hand, seeing my family together. As the weeks passed, we began to talk about going home. The idea of leaving the hospital felt unreal. It had been our world for so long, but my son was ready. He wanted to sleep in his own bed, play with his brother, eat dinner at our table again. We had spent so much time waiting for this moment, and now it was finally close. The day we left the hospital was a day I would never forget. My son held my hand as we walked toward the car. He was still weak, but his eyes were bright with excitement. The sun felt warm on our skin, and for the first time in months, we breathed fresh air without fear. My wife smiled as she helped him into the car, and I could see the relief on her face. After so many nights in the hospital, we were finally going home. When we entered the house, everything felt different. It was the same big house with the same expensive furniture, but now it had a new meaning. It was not just a house, it was our home. My older son ran to his brother and hugged him tightly. "I missed you," he said softly. My younger son smiled and whispered, "I missed you too." My wife wiped her eyes, and I felt my chest tighten. These were the moments I had once ignored, and now they meant everything to me. Life slowly returned to normal, but I was not the same man I had been before. I no longer spent hours at my office. I no longer let work take me away from my family. Instead, I spent my days with my children, playing games, telling stories, and making memories. I had spent so many years chasing money, thinking it would bring happiness. But now I saw the truth. Happiness was in time, in love, in being present. There were still difficult days. My son was still recovering, and we had to visit the doctor often. Some nights fear returned, but we faced it together. My wife and I held each other, knowing that we were stronger now. We had learned what truly mattered. No amount of money could change the past, but we could make sure our future was filled with love and time spent together. One evening, as we sat in the living room, my son rested his head on my shoulder. "Daddy, you're home a lot now," he said. His voice was soft, full of happiness. I smiled and kissed his head. "Yes," I whispered, "and I will always be here." I had spent years running after the wrong dream. Now I had found the real one, the love of my family, and this time I would never let it go.